Recap in minutes. In today's video, we will be enjoying a romance drama film, entitled Beyond Borders. There will be spoilers ahead, chill out and enjoy. The movie begins with Sarah Jordan, an American socialite currently working and living in the UK, introducing her sister, Charlotte, to her fiancé and his family during a fundraising event. Once the sisters are alone, Sarah asks Charlotte if she likes her fiancé, Henry. Charlotte approves of him. Back at the gala, an intruder named Dr. Nick Callahan, a renegade humanitarian who's been at the forefront in helping the less fortunate, disrupts the solemn event as he crashes in with a child named Jojo. He then delivers a passionate plea for help in Africa. His plea is made on behalf of impoverished children under his care back in Ethiopia. This is in response to the funding being pulled due to some political issues. He points out that the rich and powerful can spend so much on material things, while in some parts of the world, people have nothing to eat. Sarah is so moved by the plea that she abandons her job at an art gallery without a second thought and clears out her savings to do what she can to aid Nick's efforts at the refugee camps. Henry is not thrilled with her plan as she has never shown this type of passion before. He finds her decision immature and selfish. He then suggests that she send her money to Africa if she's really willing to help instead of going there herself, but Sarah is firm with her desire to be there in person and help the people. Henry is left with no other choice than to support her. He also promises to help her raise some money. Sarah then travels to Ethiopia, bringing with her some medical supplies and food to the incredibly isolated camps. On her way, she sees a starving child that's being stalked by a vulture, waiting for the poor child to die. She immediately asks the driver to stop the truck. She steps down from the vehicle and saves the child. Moments later, armed men arrive and start unloading sacks of food. Chaos erupts as the villages start moving in despite the danger. They are willing to risk their lives to feed their families. The tension only de-escalates after Nick arrives to negotiate with the rebels. Sarah tells Nick about the child's condition as well as the child's mom, who is wounded. The mom is at the back of the truck being attended to. Nick informs her that it's too late to save the child as he's too weak to survive. Sarah is disappointed as she still believes that he can still be saved. Nick tells Sarah that he is also uncertain if she is there to help or for publicity, just like some foreigners who pretend to help. Sarah explains to him what happened that led her to save the child. She even shares that she was in London when he did his speech. That is what inspires her to do what she's doing now. He seems to not care about it. Nick's friend, Dr. Elliot Hauser, shows Sarah the entire camp. He also tells her that the food she brings will only last a few days. They then go to the makeshift medical facility where Nick operates on the child's mom. Nick also sarcastically assures her that the child is being attended to as she ordered. Sarah confronts the doctor for questioning her presence there. She has nothing but a pure intention to help. While Nick and Elliot are contemplating what they need to do once they run out of supplies, they hear someone playing the piano. It's Sarah passing up the time. Later on, Nick pays her a visit to ask for an update about the child that she is now tasked to look after. She lets him know that there's not much progress. He tells her that sometimes, the healing takes a while. The next day, Sarah is happy to find out that the child is now out of danger and is slowly recovering. A government official arrives to discuss with Elliot the condition that the villagers are in. Nick butts in to demand more food as hunger can lead them to become desperate. If that happens, they will certainly become a security concern. The government official finds it offensive for Nick to confront him like that. He warns Nick that he is under investigation for the incident that involved Jojo. He was the kid that Nick brought with him when he invaded the gala. He leaves without offering any useful resolution. Sarah visits Nick's tent as she will be leaving tomorrow. She confronts Nick for being difficult to deal with despite her efforts to win him. He won't even mention her name in all of their interactions. Nick explains the harsh reality of his experience being a doctor there. He also shares a devastating experience when he lost a friend. That friend had a name. To protect himself from having to go through the pain, he refuses to address her with her first name as he can no longer afford to lose someone he cares for. Elliot expresses his gratitude to Sarah for being there before she leaves. Sarah could have just stayed in London and lived her life, but she took risks to be there. As Sarah departs the area, she feels inspired to do more. Back in the UK, Henry struggles to find a job. This disrupts Sarah's plans as she will have to look after their baby. She has now worked for humanitarian and human rights organizations for 10 years after she first traveled to Ethiopia. One day, she receives a call from Elliot, who tells her that he is currently in London. Sarah expresses her desire to see him. After all, He was there when she took all the risks to bring in aid for the villagers. She goes home before meeting Elliot, only to find out that her husband did not leave. In fact, he brought someone into the house. He explains that his interviews for today have been cancelled. Sarah and Elliot are reunited. He tells her that he is now in Cambodia, where people are dying due to medical conditions with little help from the outside world. Landmines are causing serious injuries to the villagers as well. Elliot adds that the supplies like vaccines are blocked by warring factions and corruption in the country. He asks her if she can help him put a UN stamp just for the shipment to be safe and for extra protection. Sarah vows to help him and even promises to be there herself. Sarah arrives in Cambodia and is reunited with Nick. He takes her to the camp on a boat. Here, she discovers the same condition of war where refugees are suffering but even more tightly bound than in Ethiopia. Nick explains that the Khmer Rouge forces use the women as baby factories and their young children as minesweepers. Sarah questions why he chose to stay when he can leave. He adds that the villages have no doctors. Nick and Sarah are stopped at a military checkpoint. The supplies are then checked, and guns discovered. Sarah is shocked as she was certain that what they were transporting was just supplies. Nick denies that he knows about it. He is then beaten up and is almost killed if not because Sarah stepping up. Once they get past the checkpoint, Sarah confronts Nick about the guns. He admits that he knows about it and that he is forced to bend the rules to bring in the much-needed supplies. Nick informs Elliot that the guns have been confiscated when they arrive at the camp. Nick also mentions that intelligence files were discovered. Elliot is now concerned as the guns and the files are supposed to be given to the Communist Party. In return, the rebels won't harm the villages. If they have nothing to give, all of them are in real danger. The most sensible thing to do is to leave now, but Nick refuses to listen. The Khmer Rouge terrorizes the camp after finding out that the guns and files that were intended for them have been confiscated at the checkpoint. Nick explains through an interpreter that he's telling the truth about what happened. Nick also mentions that he and his team are there to save lives, but the rebels refuse to listen. The Khmer Rouge leader demands that one of the foreigners must die. A commotion ensues, and Elliot is shot and killed. This leads the villagers to take matters into their own hands and fight against the rebels, who are now overwhelmed. The villagers, together with Nick's team, flee the camp and move towards another camp for safety. Nick blames himself for what happened to Elliot. Sarah comforts him and reminds him that Elliot died doing what he wanted to do. Sarah also expresses that she has always been worried about Nick. Even when she was back in London, she always thought about him. Nick grabs her and kisses her. The two then make love and spend the night together. The next morning, Nick tells Sarah that they can't be together due to the nature of their jobs. Nick is committed to staying in Cambodia to help the villagers despite risking his life. He does not want Sarah to be there as well, as he knows he can lose her anytime. Sarah is left with no choice but to return back to London. Back in the UK, Sarah is appointed as the regional representative for the United Kingdom for the UNHCR for all her humanitarian efforts. Her sister comes over to witness this special moment and listen to her speech. Sarah is apparently distraught. After her speech, she confides to her sister that Nick now finds himself inevitably caught up in the humanitarian crisis in Chechnya. She needs to go there and find him. Besides, they now have a daughter, but Nick is not aware of it yet. Sarah receives important information about Nick via fax. She then leaves for Chechnya only to find out that nobody has heard where he is now. He remains missing. Sarah is advised to stay in the hotel and wait, but she refuses to do that. Her sister also begs her to return home, but Sarah chooses to stay. While resting, Sarah hears a knock on the door. A person claiming to be Nick's friend wants to speak to her. He informs her that it's quite possible that Nick is already dead. Sarah is able to locate Nick. As she is reunited with him, the place is bombarded. She immediately unties him. Nick, at this point, is completely weak from all the injuries he suffered at the hands of his captors. The couple braves the devastating cold in an effort to escape. They are spotted by their captors and are being shot at. Nick is hit in the leg, but they both continue to run. When Nick sees the captors closing in, he begs Sarah to leave him. He knows that the captors will not kill him as he can be used to bribe the government for him. Sarah starts to run away, but seeing the love of her life wounded, and in pain, she refuses to go further. Moments later, a huge explosion kills her after stepping on a landmine. The movie ends with Nick surviving as rescue helicopters arrive. Nick then travels to the UK to visit Sarah and Henry's home and meet his young daughter. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this and help the channel grow.